to Bellingham Podcast Media Tech for the week of May 15th, 2016, Episode 7. I'm AJ Barce.
And I'm Chris Powell. On this episode, I'm still torn between work and personal calendars, and I need to whine about it. Also, are we just living life through rose-colored Facebook glasses? And our favorite spots on I-5 exit 254. All that and a whole boatload more next on BPM Tech.
Boatload.
Boatload.
You went with the boatload?
Well, I have many. I've been reading my thesaurus.
Okay, boatload, boat show.
Yes.
Boat. I got nothing.
Well, on the BPM Tech After Hours, we'll use other colorful ways of describing a whole lot of information.
That would be a good show. You've tuned into BPM After Dark.
All right, AJ, let's keep this clean. Here we go.
Okay, what are you drinking?
What am I drinking? I am drinking Unbreakable Under Armour water bottle with 2016 vintage H2O. Like yes, Bobby Boucher said, it's that cool, clean water.
It's that cool, clean water.
And how about you? What do you got?
Well, seeing that this is Sunday and I have been working from dusk till dawn for the last 3 days now, I am drinking San Pellegrino sparkling natural mineral water imported from the good country of Italia.
George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino would approve. Mm-hmm. Very cool.
2 out of 3 would.
That's right. So, AJ, where the heck are we?
We are actually in Mikasa!
In your house, that's right.
So, the remodel, as you can tell, Mr. Powell, is coming to a wrap, finally.
It's getting there. And, you know, I'm driving all of about 1 minute, 12 seconds from my house to your house.
I know, it's far distance.
And in that time frame, I'm like, you know, it's wonderful to be going to a place where I'm not sitting next to strangers, having to be concerned about what I say or saying too loudly.
Oh, that would be me.
No, that's all right. But to be in a public place, you know, it's great that we have a mobile podcasting setup and we can go to various locations around Bellingham and Whatcom County. But we get some weird-looking stares from people. Like, what the heck are these two jokers doing?
I love it.
To be in your house, and yes, it's looking great, and I look forward to the completed ribbon cutting of your kitchen lower-level remodel. It looks great. It shows you put a lot of work into it.
Thank you.
I love the fact that I don't have to use my indoor voice if I don't want to. So it's great to be here. Thank you for hosting this Episode 7. And let's get into it. So
you have a calendar conundrum.
Yeah, quandary.
A
scheduling situation.
What's going on?
You know, I'm trying, I guess in my personality makeup or in my strengths for my professional and personal life, I like compartmentalizing a lot of things. And for the longest time, I've tried to keep my work and my personal life separate. I'm finding it difficult to find that sweet spot where Google, which contains my personal calendar, also shared with my wife, to have Google balance with Outlook, which is the calendar used at work. And I've been trying to find one app to rule them all. We had a couple contenders for a while, but they get shut down and or eaten alive and not useful anymore. So I'm having this internal struggle. Do I put my calendar apps or my calendar appointments on my work calendar and have Outlook on my phone? Oh, wait, that would be a situation for me because I have certain opinions about Microsoft on my phone.
Oh, really? You have opinions on Microsoft?
I got opinions.
Okay.
But I'm trying to come up with, so in the Apple camp, it's wonderful to have an app called Fantastical because I can subscribe to both Google and Outlook, and it's got a great interface. I'm using Fantastical on desktop and mobile version. By the way, I love the birds that are singing outside your window right now.
Dude, I got to let in a little bit of au natural.
That's right. For those of you listening in, the Barce Casa, and if you're playing on Google Maps, good luck because we're not going to tell you where it is. There's a nice breeze floating through, and we got some birds coming in. And we have maybe a little bit of a studio audience. And so what I'm trying to come up with is a way that I can have a calendar that come up with the decision. Do I want to put my personal life in my professional life? Do I want to put my professional life in my personal calendar? I just have a quandary. And as techs, we are supposed to come up with immediate answers to complex computer situations right now. At least that's for me in a lot of ways. And this is something that I'm trying to come to grips with in a personal setting and professional setting. Do I use Outlook, which is a fine iOS app? It's gotten great reviews. Do I want to put my personal life into my work in that? And I have enjoyed blurring that line between work and my private life. So this is what I've been wrestling with since our previous podcast.
Right. So Fantastical is kind of being the Band-Aid for it, or do you feel it's going to be a long-term solution?
I like, I go down many roads, try many apps, and I see, this won't work for me in my situation. Fantastical has a really great interface. It has a really great way of entering in information with some logical, just by typing in words, podcast at AJ's on Sunday at 2 p.m. And it totally locks that in. By the way, for those of you listening in, it is 2 o'clock on a Sunday that we're recording this. But
actually, it is 10 after. We started the show a little bit late due to some setup.
Yes. In this current state of internet, digital online life, we just cannot expect things to last 20 years. It's not possible unless we design it ourselves to have one app to rule them all for all of our needs. And I'm having a tough time allowing some drawbacks or some negatives to go with the positives of some particular apps. The Google Calendar app for both Android and iOS and desktop, great interface. They have the really great graphics and they can integrate it nicely with your email, but it doesn't work for me. And so I've just been, it's good to have a conversation. Is what I'm using prudent or pragmatic? But at this point, I'm trying to find something that I could at least have two inputs for work and personal, and Fantastical 2 in the App Store seems to be the best bet for me. But I would love to be able to have a mindset where I can put everything into one calendar. Sure. So that's just my failings as a professional. What
about all this new AI stuff that's been coming out? We got Amazon Echo now has an API, or Alexa has an API. We've got Google apparently is working on something that's going to be an Amazon Echo-ish thing. I think they're calling it Tweet or Quick or something like that.
We may find out in I.O. Their keynote on the 18th. It's wonderful to have a personal assistant. I'm sure there are others in this world that, good morning, Mr. Powell. You have 4 appointments today, starting at 8 a.m. I don't want that.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
I can't afford one, nor do I, that's...
But what about a digital one? Like, would actual, some Vocaloid coming back and saying, Mr. Powell, if you leave now, you will make it to Mr. Barcet's house in 1 minute and 32 seconds. What would be the end-all, be-all solution where I mean the interface is usually like the stumbling block, it's really janky to get an appointment in or to use data detection. What if you could just speak it? Would that work? Would that just nullify everything and get everything into one ecosystem?
It could, but unfortunately I have a particular kind of cryptic code with a lot of my things that I take notes with. And so if I have imp meeting wife, right? They're going to be like, I'm sorry, I did not understand that.
I need to make an appointment with the green dragon.
Yes.
Okay. So you have colloquialisms that's a hurdle for any AI, right?
And depending on some ways that I mumble when I'm hungry, and I may have some unrecognizable words. I don't know if a voice input would be the solution. I recently
ran into this. So I was dictating a text, right? And I was saying #wood Dexter because the reason is because I've been cutting so much wood out in my garage, right? It literally looks like I just assassinated an entire forest because there's
the
just
TV show Dexter.
Yeah, right. It just, instead of blood spatter, there's just sand. I wallpapered my garage with sawdust.
Okay.
It was epic. And so I was sending a buddy of mine who appreciates, working with your hands and stuff. I took a picture and I was like, haha, #wood Dexter. You know what I got? I got, literally it spelled out hashtag, and then it said wood, WOULD, and then Dexter.
It's too smart for its own good.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, colloquialisms are things that we either personally or based off of region, y'all. These are all things that AI needs to work on.
It needs more data from people doing this, like to say drinks with my bae.
Yeah.
What? No, I'm sorry. What? Oh, I must be old. My teenage daughter uses BAE as a term for a significant other.
Yeah.
But any kind
Which
of
I had to Urban Dictionary. By the way, when you first said that, I was like, really? That's a thing?
You're so out of the loop.
I know.
But anyway.
I use the internet, the interwebs.
But AI is not quite there yet, so that can't work for me.
Okay.
I would love to be able to get to a point where it's possible for Microsoft to be able to import Google settings.
Yeah.
Or for dynamic updating within, like I could take my Microsoft calendar with my Office 365 credentials and have that as a calendar that is dynamically updated. And until these two silos open up a little bit of a aluminum can with a string next to each other to be able to communicate, it's going to be a conundrum.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Good
So
to
anyway, thanks for letting me rant. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
But that was my conundrum of the week. So you, sir, are a definite analog. You're an analog inspiration to myself and perhaps many others. You do a lot of writing with pen.
Yes.
And notebook.
Yes.
And it seems like you are having a conundrum of your own.
I am, and this happens usually every year and a half, 2 years, where I cuddle up with a journal from any manufacturer, and I'm reaching the end of my current Lutstrom 1917 journal that I've got. And so I'm in a conundrum because my rule of thumb is I never repeat. So I've already done Lutstrom 1917, so I got to look for something new. So and I've gone through the gambit. I did, like back in my early days when I didn't have a lot of money, I got something from Barnes and Noble when, before there was this thing called Amazon, and so I would go to the local bookstore and find whatever was cheap and in black.
Yes.
Because I do like having a black notebook because you don't have to worry about it getting dirty. Nobody can tell. And I carry mine every day. You've seen it. And so I've done Moleskine, and I've done pretty much
Ecosystem.
I've done Ecosystem, which is made in the USA.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like when I pick one, I dedicate myself to it. That way, at the end of it, I can tell somebody like, look, this is what I got out of Moleskine. This is what I got out of Ecosystem. And, I can tell about durability because I'm not one of these hipsters that just, hangs on to it and brings it to whenever I go to the park. No, it's on me. And so when I do that, like I can say, like, this is what it's going to look like when you use a fountain pen or when you use pencil. Or I'm coming to the end of Lutstrom. I have to say, I really like Lutstrom 1917. Better than even Moleskine. Moleskine's kind of like the...
it's an everyman notebook.
It's an everyman notebook type of a thing, or every person notebook. It's everywhere.
Yes.
They have brilliant marketing. They're not necessarily the best notebook on the block. There's a lot of things that go into that. There's the actual paperweight that notebooks use. Some of them take to fountain pens better than others. Or if you're a sketch artist, you're going to want something a little bit more tactile because as you're striking like graphite, you want it to stay on the page. I like Moleskine. Don't get me wrong. Like when I travel, I actually have these they look like field notes, like they're 3.5 by 5, but they're Moleskine and they're just a little bit more durable because again I keep them in my pocket when I travel or if I'm doing a shoot and stuff and I need I literally stick it right by my wallet type of a thing. So that's my utilitarian stuff. But for my everyday carry for my journal, I'm in a conundrum because like I really like Lutstrom 17. I would actually buy another one because hands down durability, it takes fountain pen well because our fellow colleague Kevin, he swears by the nib.
Yes.
And I'm not that analog. I don't break out my quill, but I do have a favorite pen that I bring, and it's just a ballpoint pen. It's not anything fancy, but for me, it's the experience of the paper and the durability and the fact that my life for, a year or two is going to be slammed in here. I put my photographs in there. I take, I don't know, museum stubs because I don't really keep movie stubs, but like things like going through Europe, all the stuff that I carried there is in my journal, like physically. And it's funny because like most people today do this on Facebook, which we'll get to that topic later, but for me I do it all analog because much like you and I have seen over the years, what's here today is gone tomorrow. Yahoo is on the butcher block. Facebook is only good because people feel that they have to contribute to it. But we saw that with Dig, and Dig's gone. Uprise Reddit. it's only a matter of time when all of these things are going to have a changeover. So I like to have a dedicated platform. It's called paper.
So since you are of a mindset that you don't repeat, it's like the movie The Jackal with Bruce Willis and Richard Gere. You never kill the same way twice.
Never kill the same.
You never have the same notebook twice. Boy, that's really reaching for the analogy bucket.
Wow.
But what notebooks are currently you considering?
So I've got a couple, and actually I tuned into a new podcast that Kevin Rose has been working on called The Journal, because it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny watching Kevin Rose, to whom, which if you don't know who that is, he's the guy that originally kicked off Dig back in the day. He was on like the youngest pup in Silicon Valley before it blew up on Wired. Like, he is an awesome dude, and now he works for Google Ventures, and he has his hand in almost everything.
He's a muckety muck
dude. Like, I recently read like he's a creative director or CEO of Hodinkee, or he has some tie to Hodinkee and stuff. Like, it's kind of funny watching him because him and I are about the same age, and it's funny, like, as I've progressed, like my college years was the Dignation years, where he was a little bit more crazier with Alex Albrecht, and now he's more refined. And as I get into my mid-30s, I'm more refined, But anyway, he launched this new thing called The Journal, and it's a monthly podcast with a newsletter. Very un-internet, if you think about it. He's not blogging about it, and it's this pursuit of just like life hacking and trying to find the best tool for the job. There's only like 2 or 3 episodes, so there's not much to go off of. But the episode 2 was really good because he brought in the guy from Relay FM, the guy that
Mike
does
Hurley?
Not Mike
No,
Hurley.
Casey.
I can't think of his name, but he's the guy that does the podcast about pens and stuff.
The Pen Addict.
Pen Addict. Anyway, I can't remember his name, but it was a really good episode because he runs down a lot of notebooks and stuff. And a lot of what I listen to, I've already experienced and stuff. But off of it, I started digging and stuff. And so there's 3 contenders right now in the octagon.
In the notebook octagon. I like it.
So one is Shinola, which...
Yes.
So Shinola, Detroit built. Uh-huh. And many may know them for making bicycle parts and watches, American-made watches, quartz movement. But much to my surprise, they make a very nice notebook. Don't know much more about it. It's on my radar, but it's linen covered. It's hardbound. Apparently it's a fold flat, binding and stuff. Really nice, So I'm looking into that, and they also offer monogramming, so I can be a little bit of a narcissist and have my, initials on the front. All right.
Because you deserve it.
Oh, yeah.
This is the part of what will draw you into your analog life.
Yeah.
It's like, this means something. Now you're invested.
Yeah, exactly. It's no take backsies,
I like it.
Well, that's the other funny thing, right? Once you invest in a notebook and you start writing in it, it's not like you can I don't like it, and you take it back. Like, that's the interesting thing about a journal, as opposed to something digital. Like, if you don't like it, do a return or exchange.
Yep.
About technology. Notebooks, once you make a mark, it's yours.
Yeah.
So anyway, Shinola's on my radar. Cartesio, which is funny story. I looked at them before I bought the Lutstrom, and they say that it's made in Italy. And as we all know, Moleskine is a Italian company, but they're not made in Italy anymore. They're actually, I think they use Taiwanese. To the Taiwanese or China. I can't remember.
They're outsourcing.
They outsource, so they're not an Italian. They're an Italian company, but they're not made in Italy. But Cartesio is. And funny, I actually emailed try finding support for a notebook, right? It's not like an app. Like, I need to find the developer. Notebooks doesn't work like that. I finally found an email for this company, and so I'm like, I'll cold email them. So I sent them an email, and I get it back, and I can tell, like, English is not their first language. They write back, and it's just like, if your question is regarding our notebook, we are here in Florence, and I can tell you, if you order a notebook, I will even tell you which one it is. It does come from here in Italy. Like,
very good.
It was a really cool email, and I'm like, all right, so cool. Actually made in Florence, Italy. A little different design. It doesn't have a flat binding ribbon that goes around it. It's actually round, and they have a notch on the top and the bottom, so it actually locks the cover down. Different design.
Intriguing, yes.
Okay, so there's that. And then the last one is, and I want to slaughter this guy. I've heard it said different ways, but Rhodia, which is a French-based company, and their notebooks are made in France. Looking at I think they call it a web notebook. But anyway, so those are the big three: Shinola, and then Cartesio, and then Rhodia.
So are you going to buy all three at once, or is your nature to buy one at a time and burn it, or go through it and then? No.
Yep. It's if once I have it and I put my first strike in it, it's mine.
Okay.
Until it's full.
We will follow up on this
in 2 years.
Well, no, in a later episode, we're going to
Sure. We'll see.
We talked about notebooks. Which one did you get?
Yep.
How's it working out for you?
I still got to think about. That's one thing about Lutstrom 1917. There's page numbers on it, which most notebooks don't.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second, like I always do with you on these podcasts.
Really?
Yes. You.
Me. We're talking about me.
You say that you go to a different source each time. You've spoken very highly of Lutstrom.
Yeah.
Why aren't you continuing on with it?
Because I want a different experience.
A different experience.
Kind of like you, Mr. Powell, jumped ship from Android not too long ago here to iOS to get
yes,
a different experience.
That was. So we have different reasons for doing that, but I will say that for the past 10 years, I've had G&L bases.
Sure.
When Leo Fender made Fender bases, he actually made the one he wanted to make for himself with George Fullerton, and they called it G&L. They trash Fender bases in quality and performance and sound and playability. Fender haters, feel free to email us at bellinghampodcast.com. Anyway.
So to get on that, full disclosure, I own 3 Fenders and a Dean.
There you go.
So
feel free to hate this way.
I don't hate it. Best tool for the job.
But I found that when you find something that works for you, you stick with it.
Sure.
And that whole experience, you have to relearn the ins and outs and things. But this is what makes your analog life exciting.
Yes. It just no differently than like my watches. Like today, I'm wearing my Citizen Echo Drive on a black NATO strap. That has been my tool watch for this entire remodel because I am not going to be wearing my Swiss watch while I'm swinging a hammer.
Probably a good idea.
Different tools for different jobs.
That's
And
right.
It's just one of those things where I came to this because it's a tool. My journal is a tool. And yes, I've just like out in my shop, I've got lots of different tools. I've got a circ saw. I've got a chop saw. They all cut wood, and the project is to document my life, a la a journal. I swap out different pens. It's a quirk of mine. I like trying to.
It's not a quirk. It's part of. It's a decision, and you stand by it, and that's totally cool. I always like getting people to expand on why they do what they do.
Yeah,
and I stick with one thing and I go on for a long time till I drive it in the ground.
Well, 2 years in a notebook,
that's. But I would say, I'm a Dapper Dan man. You stick with something and that's that. You're a Lutstrom man.
Yep.
But nope, you go to Shinola or Cartesio or Rhodia or something like that, and that's the next.
Yeah, that's the next iteration.
So
we'll see. And like I said, it just maybe out of it. I don't know. It just. When you have a different tool in your hand, you also create differently.
Yes.
It's just no differently than I've got an EX6, an A6000. I'll grab an A7. It's not as much the tool that have brand loyalty to. Like I have an affinity for Lutstrom. I think they make a fine product.
Yep.
Maybe after I burn one notebook, I'll go back to them. It's kind of like, after you have a presidency twice, you can't have them for a third time.
Yes.
Kind of the same thing with my journal.
So this is the Bar State Constitution Amendment number 6 involving the notebooks.
Exactly.
Thou shalt not repeat notebooks.
Yeah. So I'm riding low in the 360, and I'm cruising up I-5, and the next stop is exit 254. Mr. Powell, what is up there that you like? Go!
So depending on which, if you're going northbound, it's going to turn into Iowa Street. If it's southbound, it's Ohio Street, which is part of the Bellingham's awesome city infrastructure. It's confusing. Anyway, on exit 254, if you happen to get to James Street.
Oh, I do.
Yes, James Street is off of that exit, and in the Trader Joe's parking lot, which is always full, there is
fighting a parking space.
There is a restaurant in Trader Joe's parking lot. I think it's Sunnyland Square, if you're driving along there. But
is that what that's called?
That's a Sunnyland district, like off of James Street. But anyway, there's a restaurant there called Over Easy.
Oh, yes.
And Over Easy is one of Bellingham's secret weapons.
Oh, yes,
and
it is.
I give them so much... I have so much love for this joint. My wife and I have gone there a number of times for breakfast. The thing I like about Over Easy, and they have, it's kind of like a throwback, almost like a Back to the Future style in how they have things set up. I got to give props to the owners, Jamie and Colleen Bonnet, and forgive me if I
slaughter the
names, Jamie and Colleen. Y'all are the goods, and here's why you're the goods. All right. They come to your table. They don't have a huge expanse of tables in varying sections, but they will come to your table. And this may not happen each time, but every time that my wife and I was there, they say hello, how are you? They ask how things are going.
Yeah.
And you can tell when someone's a nice person instead of doing the verbatim, is there anything else I can get for you? Is everything okay? No, they actually listen to you, and that is an abnormality in a good way in the dining experience. And
they remember you, like my wife and I went there, and then my mother-in-law came into town, and so naturally it's a happy place. Where else are you going to take your in-law? So we went there, and I was like, hey, and she's like, oh, you're back, and I'm like, oh yes, and I brought my in-law. Oh, we'll make this good. And so you're right. It is quality. The people, all the wait staff are awesome.
Yes.
The food is amazing.
So for those of you that may not be in Bellingham, you want to go, you're coming up to Bellingham sometime, 2430 James Street on your Google Maps. Punch it in your phone. Great food. You will definitely be, enjoying your experience. The owners and staff are awesome. And then, oh, by the way, if you need to do a little bit of shopping, you're already parked there. Go to Trader Joe's, get some good deals on stuff.
Absolutely.
AJ, what's your best bet on exit 254, Ohio Street, James Street?
So mine, if you, so it's down a little bit from that whole area, and you're heading more towards Bellingham. Local hardware place called Hardware Sales.
Yes.
They've been in Bellingham forever, it
since
seems
1620. They've been there forever.
I swear. What's cool is, so a lot of locals, we all know Hardware Sales, especially their wall of screws and nuts.
Yes.
Like, if you have an obscure something, you just walk in, and first of all, nobody knows where as a consumer, you walk in, you don't know where anything is. Like, there's lines, like a metro line station on the concrete. Just go up to any person and just ask, I'm looking for, and you can have it in their hand. Like, you can have this, and you don't even know what this is. You just broke it, and you're like, oh man, I just hope I can find a replacement. You just show it to them, and they're like, oh yeah, that's who's it? 3mm. So
aisle 12.
Aisle 12 on the first floor. Hang a left by plumbing, and when you see Joe, wave hi, and it'll be on the far right hand corner. Man, those guys, they know, guys and gals, they know almost every nook and cranny. And it doesn't matter what department you're in either. It's like they all know where everything is. It's great.
I don't think my brain has enough cells of memorizing capacity for what they know.
Heck no.
Yeah.
So that's Hardware Sales. And everybody in Bellingham knows that. Now, here's the little secret weapon, which I didn't know. My wife actually tuned me into this.
All right.
So there's Hardware Sales. There's Hardware Sales office equipment, which is like their other storehouse.
Sure.
So they have like used office equipment and stuff that you can purchase. Then they also have rentals. And boy howdy, Mr. Powell, let me tell you something. When you're working on a remodel, everything goes perfectly, right? Said no one ever. I'm ripping up underlayment to put down the tile that you're on right now, and all of a sudden I find out they use like 90 bajillion gallons of glue. And so I've got to figure out a way to get it up. And so I go down to there because my wife's like, dude, you can just rent a tool. They have a tool. I mean, think about it. It's Hardware Sales. If they've got parts, they're going to have tools. Yeah. So I go down there and I tell them the whole story. And first of all, they're just like, good luck storming a castle. I got that part. But they hooked me up with a rotohammer. This rotohammer is basically a handheld jackhammer.
I like it.
Dude, this tool is like a $600 tool. You get it on a weekend. You get it for all weekend for like $30 and change.
I like it even more.
It is quality bang for your buck, and you're looking at the end result. They were able to hook me up with a tool, and it's funny because like they're like, look, the story that you just told me of the fact that you have like 90 pounds of glue per square inch. If this doesn't work, just give us a call and just bring this back within like the hour, and we don't even charge it. Like, they are a quality shop. And so I'm a little bit building savvy, but even if you didn't have any savviness, you go in there and just tell them like, I'm building a birdhouse. What do I need? They'll hook you up. Great people, great equipment. They've saved my bacon more times in this remodel than I can count.
two more instances why Bellingham rocks for these local businesses and the people that are having in Bellingham. It's so much fun to first of all give props to these places, but also when you go, you're taken care of.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't have this type of experience wherever you're living, come on up to Bellingham. It's a great place to live.
Seriously.
It just rains 9 months out of the year. But anyway, so that's exit 254. Next will be Sunset. I've heard of that exit. Next time we'll talk about it.
Is that where the mall is?
Not quite. We're getting close, though.
But that's a common misnomer. Everybody's like, is that where the mall? No, you need to go one more.
One more, 255. Thank you.
So anyway, let's segue out of that.
Let's move on.
Let's dive into anti-social media.
Yes.
So, have you read the hubbub that Facebook has been doing because it is politics season?
Oh, Facebook, you want to take over the world. How we love thee.
Wait, what? I don't love them.
That's my sarcastic. Yes.
Okay. But anyway, so if you haven't read, there's been a few articles. LA Times did one. I think even New York Times did one. It's all over The Verge and such. And we found out that Facebook has an algorithm that delivers the news, quote unquote, in our feeds, and it's human curated. So if Facebook, their editors, want to play a party line, whichever that party is, then we get to see it. As opposed to opening up a newspaper where you have an unbiased person, we call it a journalist, write an article with a headline, and we grab a newspaper and read it. We expect an unbiased review of what the incident or news thing is. Mm-hmm. Facebook is not a newspaper.
But they want to be one.
No. That's the thing.
They want to be your news source.
They want to be something that delivers news on the agenda that makes them money because they're on the stock exchange. That's the thing that people forget. I think a lot of people have invested emotionally in time and stuff that they kind of believe that whatever shows up in Facebook is authentic, and it's not.
So we have the society has a question of trust.
Exactly. Yeah. And so they got fragged. Facebook was just like, well, here's after like 2 days of the tech feed just totally bombarding them. They published a 28-page document that specifies what their algorithm and how their human curation works on their news.
Wow.
Cool.
That's overkill.
I have not read the said document yet. It is on my radar to do so. But it's just one of those things where, you and I both loved Prismatic as an app.
Oh, Prismatic, how I miss thee.
Yeah, yes. And there's this conundrum of the web when it comes to news. Do you go with social curation where your friends share links and then based off of what you've liked and all this other jazz interaction, do you want to be kind of spoon-fed the next headline, or do you want to select a source? Like, I prefer getting my news from the New York Times, okay, as opposed to, said, the Bellingham Herald. It just gets my goat that a lot of people are just seeing Facebook as that is their internet, So that's
going to be another deep dive IRL thing that we're going to have for this show is like the whole world of digital news.
Yeah.
How are we doing this? Because for this show, we can't really unpack everything, but Facebook, don't get me started on that.
Yes, which full disclosure, I'm on Facebook. You've never touched Facebook, Bill.
Not entirely true.
Oh.
When I got married over 6 years ago, my wife asked me to get a Facebook account because she didn't want to have married in her status.
And then blank.
Yeah, and that she wanted to have married to and then a link for people to click on so they can check me out. So I did. I got a Facebook account. I lasted 3 months before I went through the process on the trip to Mordor to delete my Facebook account. I was away from my wife's friends and others to see, oh yeah, he's not too much of a psycho. And
right, but that's the whole thing. Like, people vet relationships and people based off of that network.
Oh yeah.
That's a scary thing.
And that is something that I'm all about curating what I put out there. And the first one, as soon as I created my Facebook account, one of my closest friends messaged on my wall, and he said, "Welcome to Thunderdome," and another word that I won't say because I want to have a clean rating for this episode. Yes. Right on my wall, and I'm like, "Oh man!"
But anyway, no, like the fact is that Facebook is a company on a stock exchange at about $100 a share. And everything that we give them, they profit off of. And so why why would a network, for lack of better terms, why would they do anything other than give their constituents, a la the users, or as I like to call them, the cattle that is being led to slaughter on their network?
Be nice now. There's a lot of people we love that are on Facebook.
Yes, the people, but not the network. That's the thing that I'm a little bit worried about as a technologist, is when I look at how much blind faith people put into Facebook has the power to sway an election. Facebook has the power to, make people on pins and needles when there's an emergency, because if they don't roll out their emergency check-in when there's a terrorist attack or a natural disaster, they've built themselves up to be this beacon of trust. And now something as what a lot of people say is trivial, their news feed, well, it's whatever, it's just Facebook. No, a lot of people believe what's in that feed, and that brings concern for me.
Concern for many people, but we got to be suspicious about everything that we read, and also got to take a lot of care. If would we subject our children to certain sources of information?
No.
Well, fair enough, but that's a rhetorical question. Thank you for answering anyway.
You're welcome.
But just as it's a valuable source of knowledge that we are gaining, and when we don't question it or we don't come at it with a suspicious nature and are completely trusting, that's when bad things happen.
Well, and also, again, so with suspicion. But here's the other thing is, they also post things in their algorithm, using their algorithm and their editors to egg people on, to get people to be rambunctious and post, I don't like blah, or, how dare you blah. And people are getting judged based off of just liking something, or quote unquote, that thumb that they've now had emojis added to it.
Yep.
Once somebody does that, Chris likes, I don't know, insert any negative connotation here. To me, I see it as a negative, but you're just like, well, I just wanted to see what this was about. Mm-hmm. Okay, that article was okay. Maybe I don't like, this, but it was a good read, even though it was a negative article.
It's possible for someone to write an article that is well thought out, well versed, well researched, well attributed,
and you totally oppose it.
But that's the best part about in this society. I can oppose something, and yet if I favor it, or if I give props to it, now I'm being viewed as having that opinion, and that I got a problem with. And unfortunately, that has created a muted voice for me on Twitter, because there's a lot of really great comments or posts on Twitter involving certain presidential candidates. I'm not going to say whom, because I don't want to get fragged, and I'm too tired to have these conversations and to listen to people try to impose their dogma on me. So I don't like them. I mean, I don't like those posts. I don't like people in general. But anyway, it's a difficult when you do anything on social media, others are watching.
Yeah.
And if you like a story on Facebook, or if you're reading a story on Facebook, they're keeping track.
Exactly.
And like with Prismatic, let's go back to that for a second.
Yeah.
Prismatic has this very unique algorithm that just seemed to bring other news stories from other websites that I was not aware of.
Yeah.
That were very similar to things that I thought was a good article. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that article existed.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Prismatic went the way of the internet dodo.
Yes.
And we have to move on. Now, AJ, so we've pretty much discussed the Facebook news things. Where are you getting your news online?
So the thing is just like my analogy of, I select a newspaper based off of the reputation and the people that I see that they are quality content creators. Thus, why I was in the camp of Pulse before it got acquired by LinkedIn. I've moved to Feedly. I am a fan of, you select the source, and the feed, whatever the app or service or whatever, shows you what that content creator publishes. Every headline, all of them. And then I want to choose what gets what I get to choose what is presented to me and what I want to read further. That's what I like. But with Facebook, that's not the case. It just, blah, that you might like this, or this is going to get your goat. Because like you just said, they're tracking everything.
Yep.
So
Feedly's your weapon of choice.
Feedly, and I recently switched browsers, and Opera Yes, I know. Opera.
No, it's all good. Opera's a good browser. It's not as widely known.
No, it's not.
It's the big guns.
Yes, and they're based off of Chrome now, and also based off of WebKit, so they're a little bit more compliant with the rest of the web. But what's nice about Opera is they kind of have a prismatic front page where you have your tabs, or they call it speed dial, where you have your shortcuts for websites. They have a feed of news based off a topic that you select. And so I have technology on, and it's mostly what I see in my Feedly anyway, but every so often there's that prismatic effect where it's like, oh, whoa, the Chicago Sun-Times ran this article on, I don't know, some new widget. Whoa, cool. And I'll click on it and read it. That's kind of nice for discovery. Like a lot of people talk about music discovery, and that's what Pandora and Spotify and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, there is a place for news discovery, but I do not want an algorithm or an editor with a second agenda, who knows that I clicked on this one article about this one political party, and all of a sudden, here's this other one that that shows up.
I've used Feedly for a great number of years. As soon as Google Reader got axed, I'm like, I have my period of mourning, mm-hmm. and I look for an alternative. And Feedly was a way that I could integrate it with my Google account, sign up for particular websites that I liked, and it removed all of the ads and removed all of the distractions, and it just gave me a little blurb of an article. And if I like that, that's great. Yeah. And I used that for quite some time. Since I'm in an iPhone camp and I have an iPad Pro, those are the only two devices I have right now. Mm-hmm. I have given Apple News app a fair shot.
Okay, and your review is?
My review is it's getting there. Uh-huh. It's getting there. They are getting. I take most of the websites that I had subscribed to on Feedly, I can't subscribe to in Apple News. There are some writers and tech bloggers that I follow that they won't detect.
Yeah.
And
the indies, as it were.
The indies. And on an iOS device, I have a tough time copying a URL feed or an RSS feed and pasting it in Apple News. It's not that intuitive. Mm-hmm. So for the main tech sites, and other sites, because I'm a minimalist by nature, and to have some type of...
Again, my shock face.
Yes, like Everyday Carry. To see some other types of gear sites and other things. It's a nicely organized user interface that all the news stories are up to the top, and I can just, when I'm ready, it's there mm-hmm. for me. And then I have Feedly for the other tech bloggers and writers that I enjoy, that I follow, and that's a secondary source. But I also am working on curating the time that I dedicate to my news. Mm. Instead of I'm standing in line, flip. I want to have a sacrosanct time, like this time frame for 15 minutes. I'm going to totally shut out all my notifications, and I'm diving into finding out what's going on in my world. Grok
about it.
That's right. So
yeah. I guess anyway. my final thought on this whole thing is, when it comes to news, especially because the very name, it is news, I want an unbiased feed. And with Facebook, it is clear they are biased because they want to make money and get those ad trackbacks. Whenever it comes to news, you can't have bias. Otherwise, it's commentary. Well
said. We both have journalism backgrounds. I had an associate arts in journalism, and I used to be a reporter, and I was almost heading in that direction until I realized, I can make more money working on computers. This is in the early 90s, of course. But I definitely think an IRL may be coming up for this, because here's where we can really unload and have an in-depth discussion on something like this. Because this is important, because people are modifying their lifestyle, their lives, and the direction of our country based on what they're seeing.
Exactly.
Anyway.
So, Chris, do we have any voicemail?
We haven't gotten any voicemail. What's the matter with you people listening to us? We
know that there are listeners.
We're tracking you just like Facebook News. No, just kidding. We would love to be able to answer some questions that y'all may have about technology, about Bellingham, about name it. Give us a call. It's to area code 201-731-8324. All right? So write this down. 201-731-TECH. And leave us a voicemail. Please ask nicely. We always enjoy being asked nicely. But AJ and I would love to talk about a topic that's on your mind. And we love sharing knowledge and wisdom that we've gained over the years. let us help you out if you got a problem with something like that. Or if you want to know something about Bellingham, or if you got a gripe, or if you want to give us feedback. It's like, would you guys like talk about this and stop talking about this?
All right. Okay, sure.
Well, there you
go. Before we wrap up the show, do you have any, because we were just talking about the fact that you go run minimal, but every so often you throw on a new app. What's the app on tap? Do you have anything new that you're experimenting with?
I recently discovered one. I like being able to take a screen capture and annotate it or mark it up.
Oh, yes. I know where you're going with this.
And recently I discovered an app on iOS. And Android fans, I'm going to work on you later, so, hang tight. But for those of you that have an Apple iPhone or an iPad, there is an app called This. All right? So it's a light blue icon with like a little finger pointing down, like you're pushing a button, and it's called This. What this does, great name for it. It's totally like, what the heck does it do? But it does this. You take a picture with your iPhone. You launch This. You bring up your photo. And you touch the screen, and it'll create a little bit of a little arrow with some simple white text that you can type up. So, like, this is cool, and you can point in and have multiple arrows pointing to various things. It's a great way to add information. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, here's a little guide of some text along with it. So, I believe. I'm not sure if I didn't do my homework, and forgive me, folks. I'm not sure if there's a fee associated with it, but if it's worth $2 of your time, throw down because it's worth it. I took a picture of a friend of mine, and I did a little thing about, this is so and so, they're cool, and it worked out just like a champ. And you can send it via text message or post it to whatever. This.
Well, what's cool about that is for instance,
about this.
This or that.
No, it's this.
This, not that. Okay. So, for instance, this remodel, I've got my pops, and he's a master of all things. It's my dad.
Yes.
Of course, he knows everything. And so I run into a snag with the remodel, take a picture, use this, and how do I fix this? And just point to it. And he's like, oh, you're screwed. Whatever. But, that's what's cool is that you can use your phone, and if you got a question, what is this? Or, you can explain to somebody else. Not like we do that ever. Mm-hmm. It's great for easy documentation. I was really impressed at how easy it was almost scary how easy it was to take a picture and you're just like, do. It's cool.
And you're done and send it and then you're on your way. All right. What's your app on tap?
So mine is, I've got two. One is the Rock Clock.
The Rock Clock. I've been waiting for you to describe this one. I saw it at the Tech Things Go.
So Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yes.
Okay. So he made an app. Now
he made an app.
Well, okay. So he got people to make an app, but he is the star of his app.
Yes.
Okay. He's the people's champion of the app.
It's the people's app.
It is the people's app. So here's what's cool, right? So I was doing this whole remodel, and the funny thing about The Rock, he is very motivational. Outside of his roles as an actor and as a former wrestler and stuff, the guy is just he's invigorating. He's just go out and get her done type of a thing. Uh-huh. And so what the Rock Clock is, you can sync it's just a simple alarm and to-do list. Basically, you put in a goal, you put in the timeline or the deadline of it. And basically, he has a personal vlog with it. Every so often, you'll actually get a vlog post from him, usually in his vehicle, because that's his sanctum.
Okay.
In between him working out at 4 a.m. I'll get to that in a second. To when he's on set shooting for whatever's in the next thing that he's doing. So anyway, he's usually in his commute, and he's talking about hey y'all, I see all your goals. You're doing great. Basically, he just hypes you up, which is really cool. And the other thing is, you can sync up your alarm clock to when he gets up. If The Rock can do it, you can, type of a thing. Whether it's working out or whatever. It's gimmicky. I know, I acknowledge that, Chris. I like The Rock. I just thought it was really cool that if anybody could do it, it would be The Rock.
Why not The Rock? I will say this, though. There's no way in God's green earth I will be able to have The Rock wake me up with my wife in the same bed with me twice. Yeah. Because it'll happen once, and there will be discussion later on, and it'll be don't ever do that again. I don't want to have The Rock wake. So anyway, props to the Rock app. It's entertaining, and this is the best part about mobile technology. People get creative.
Yeah, and once I get done, honestly, once I get done with the remodel, I'll probably take it off my phone.
Yeah.
But It's been pretty funny because like I need to get up early some mornings and
Yes.
stuff to get cracking on this, and waking up with some of his very clever ringtones that come with the app. It's hilarious.
Do you like remodels? Do you like remodels? Well, get your remodel out of here. Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, that wraps it up for this edition of BPM Tech. Chris, if somebody wanted to stalk you stubs in a subdued manner, where
Yes.
can they find you on the interwebs?
Feel free to check me out at chrispowell.co, and on Twitter I'm at minimaltech, MNMLTEK. Got a couple writing blogs, and I just happened to start up a newsletter based off of I watched one of my role models. His name's Patrick Rohn. He started minimalmac.com, and he's an excellent writer and one of my influences in many of my mindsets involving technology. And if you happen to go to tinyletter.com/Christopher Powell.
Oh, wow.
That's usually what my mom calls me when I've
Yeah.
been bad. But if you go to tinyletter.com/Christopher Powell, you can subscribe to a newsletter. And
Cool.
basically, my intention for this, it's a new foray I'm trying. I want to do something once a week to my friends. And for all of you listening out there that are taking your time to listen to AJ and me, you're my family, you're my people. I'm definitely not sermonizing. It's probably going to take 3 songs in length to read through my letter, but it's some things that matter to me, some hints on technology or some mindsets that have worked for me that might work for you, some musical recommendations that I have found to be pretty cool. Definitely, no, AJ, you're headbanging right now. Don't do that. I'm not going to be recommending metal.
Okay,
but
so it's your ambience one.
It's more like the mood music or the
Got
soundscapes,
it.
yes, to help you with your mental focus. And, just basically things that are on my mind and ways to try to make use of your valuable time. So that's how you can check me out. AJ, how about you?
You can find me at ajbarce.com, which I recently relaunched. Fully mobile scaling. It's awesome.
All the more reason to check out ajbarce.com.
Yes, it looks good on mobile finally. That was one of the one critiques that everybody says, just like, dude, like, I love your photography, but why does it look so weird on my phone? And I'm like, because I do it myself and I haven't had time to. So I've made it.
You had the time.
Yeah, I have finally got some time.
Right.
When you're jacked up on coffee from after doing a remodel, you can't go to sleep. You do some web design.
There you go.
So ajbarce.com. I'm also on Twitter, much like you, at AJBARSE. And you can also support me as a Patreon patron at patreon.com/AJBarce if you like anything photography, or if you just want to learn a little bit more about photography. I do a monthly vlog to all of my evergreen and higher patrons. And yeah, it's a really fun group. So
I would say for all of yous out there listening, sign up, support the guy. He's a fine young man.
Yeah.
Make it support him, would you? It's $5 a month, maybe
exactly.
more.
Buy me a cup of coffee.
Buy him a cup of coffee. He's a fine young man. All right.
Well, he's losing it.
It's a Hurley boy again.
That wraps it up for this edition of BPM Tech. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and also Spreaker. And also, if you like us wherever you consume your podcast, even Google Play. We are in the Google Play Store.
Hi, people in Google.
Google Land! Feel free to also leave a review. We don't have any reviews, but we do know that there are people listening or there are people subscribed. So if you like the show, leave us a comment there. Or you can also visit us on the web at bellinghampodcast.com. I'm AJ Barce.
And I'm Chris Powell. Thanks again for listening in, and we'll see you next time on BPM Tech.